I'm David Rams, welcome back to another 5 Minute Friday. We have some interesting stories this week, including some typical nonsense from Mr. Anti-Vegan himself, Piers Morgan, as well as a few other stories I'm sure you're going to find interesting. Make sure you don't miss this Sunday's live stream where we're going to go into each of these stories in much more detail. Click the link in the description, set a reminder, and don't miss it. But for today, we're going to try and keep it all in 5 minutes, so it's going to be pretty quick. Let's kick off with this week's stories, and let's kick off with Piers Morgan. The clown Piers Morgan is back with some more anti-vegan nonsense. He's shouted at Joey Carbstrong. He's shouted at DXE Brighton activists. He's eaten a vegan sausage roll live on air and spat it out because he was so disgusted with the taste of it. And now, his most recent anti-vegan nonsense was in response to the launching of a new vegan business, Rudy's Vegan Butcher. Rudy's Vegan Butcher is a brand new mock meat store that is opening in London on November 1st. But Piers isn't happy about this, and he took to Twitter to tell us all that the world has gone mad because vegan butchers exist. But I mean, he's right though, isn't he? I mean, the world is pretty crazy right now, especially because of this. Because this is the first and only time the English language has been used to describe something, but not literally. With food, for example, hot dogs are actually hot dogs, not tubes filled with the body parts of tortured animals. Spotted dick is actually a spotted dick, not a traditional British dessert. Toad in the hole is actually a toad in a hole, not a traditional British dish where animals' body parts are cooked in pastry and covered in gravy. Pigs in blankets are actually pigs tucked up in blankets, not pieces of dead pigs that were gassed to death, wrapped in strips of flesh of dead tortured cows. The world truly has gone mad, and aren't we all so lucky that Piers Morgan is here to save us? Every time Piers Morgan opens his mouth to chat shit about vegans, he's advertising veganism. When he spat out the vegan sausage roll live on TV, those vegan sausage roll sales exploded. And now he's posting about Rudy's Vegan Butcher to his 7.6 million followers on Twitter. Piers Morgan could probably be considered a pretty effective vegan activist if we go by these numbers. Thank you, Piers. Keep up the good work. Over to California, where some new farming laws are going to cost farmers a shit ton of money and potentially put loads of them out of business. The changes that have been proposed by these new regulations are going to cost farmers between $1.87 and $3.24 billion, and the pig farmers are really not happy about it. They're claiming the best way to protect animals is to allow them to make the specific decisions on animal care. They're also claiming that this new ruling would reverse decades of progress on caring for pigs and the welfare of pigs. They're claiming that these changes are going to negatively impact the health of the pigs, and that's something we need to look into. What is this new rule put in place that's so terrible for the pigs that the pig farmers are so against? It's called Proposition 12, and it requires that any female pig 6 months or older kept for breeding purposes be provided at least 24 square feet of floor space and be able to stand up, turn around and stretch their limbs without touching the sides or the enclosure of any other animal. There's only one exception for this: when they're farrowing. With this new regulation, they need to be immediately moved back into their open pens once the piglets have been weaned, and during breeding, the proposition only allows confinement of a sow for 6 hours within a 24-hour period and no more than 24 hours in any 30-day period. It's almost like these farmers are making up stories about how it would reverse progress because they don't want to spend money on improving the welfare conditions for the pigs on their farms. It's almost like they don't actually care about the animals whatsoever, and their only focus is how much money they can get from exploiting their bodies. No, they'd never do that, right? I can't say I've ever been a big supporter of welfarist activism, trying to improve the conditions for animals rather than advocating for an end to it. But if welfarist activism costs these industries literally billions of dollars, putting many farms out of business for good, I have to admit, seems like it could be a pretty good strategy. Is there a place for welfarist activism in the animal rights movement as part of a larger strategy to end these industries? Or should everyone be advocating only for abolition and never advocating for improved welfare, even though it can cause these massive financial hits? Well, this is a big story and I really want to get your thoughts on it. Make sure you come to the live stream on Sunday. I saw this next story on Yahoo News and it made me think, I wonder how many of you are going through this exact thing right now with your partner. I wonder how many of you are going through this shit. The title of this story is, Vegan Woman Leaves Boyfriend Upset with Unreasonable Cooking Rules. This is taken from a Reddit thread where people post up their situations and experiences and ask the group, am I the asshole here? And she's asking, is she an asshole for not wanting to cook for her boyfriend who's not vegan and his son who's also not vegan. She's been getting pressured by him to cook them separate meals every single day because they don't want to eat the vegan food. Is this happening to you right now, or do you know someone that it's happening to? Is she the asshole? I'll tell you what I think. Fuck no. If you cook for your partner, they should be damn grateful that you're cooking for them in the first place. Forget asking you to cook animals' bodies or secretions. And if they complain, honestly, fuck that shit. Stand your ground. Tell them if they want to eat the bodies of abused animals, they can go and eat it somewhere else. If you can't tell already, ungrateful people really piss me off, especially when they're being ungrateful and trying to abuse animals at the same time. You don't need to constantly take people's bullshit. I know it's hard to stand up for yourself in the beginning, but in the long term, it's gonna make your life much easier, and more importantly, you're defending the animals. And some good news with the next story. The Giza pyramids in Cairo, Egypt, one of the wonders of the world, they get about 14.7 million visitors every single year, and historically, they've always had these tourists riding camels, riding donkeys, riding horses around the pyramids area. Can you imagine the amount of abuse that has been going on there with 14.7 million people every single year? Well, now, thanks to powerful protesting and campaigning from local activists, as well as I think global activists, the Egyptian government has banned animal rides, all animal rides, in the Giza pyramid area. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but just think 14.7 million tourists, how many of them were riding those poor animals? And that's now stopped completely. We're very far away from a world where we stop doing these horrific things to animals, but this is a positive, and it's really gonna make a big difference for those animals. So in my eyes, that's a good news story. Don't forget, in this Sunday's live stream, we're going to go through these stories and much more in much more detail, and I want to get your thoughts and your feelings too. Check the link in the description, set the reminder, don't miss it, and I'll see you there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on Sunday.